Hello, everyone, and welcome to Western Connecticut SCORE's webinar on starting and running an e-commerce business, selling on Amazon and other platforms. I'm Peter Talion, the webinar coordinator and a business mentor here at Western Connecticut SCORE, and I'll be your host. Our speaker today is Cliff Ennico. More on our speaker in just a minute. First, some brief information on SCORE. There are about 10,000 SCORE volunteers nationally in about 200 local chapters. SCORE is an SBA, Small Business Administration resource partner. Western Connecticut SCORE has about 130 mentors with a wide variety of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. We offer three primary value-added services to small business owners. We offer free one-on-one counseling, face-to-face, telephone, email, and video, which can be accessed via the Request Mentor link on our website or via the link on the screen. We offer about 100 sessions per year in terms of educational in-person workshops and live webinars. And you really must take a look at our website, which we have a tremendous resources on the website, previously recorded information, templates, all sorts of information that you can use to help build your business. And we have a network of subject matter experts at your disposal. Some useful information about today's event. If you have a question, please use the chat window at any time during the presentation. It is located in the lower part of your screen. Our workshop will end at 1 p.m. to respect your time. The session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be available at westernconnecticut.score.org within the next couple of days. Now about our speaker. Cliff Ennico is one of America's top small business lawyers, is best known as the former host of Money Hunt, the PBS television series, and the author of Succeeding in Your Business, a nationally syndicated newspaper column. He is a frequent contributor to Entrepreneur and other small business magazines, has hosted over 100 videos on YouTube, and is the author of 17 books on entrepreneurship and career management. Cliff has been very, very generous with his time over the last many years in supporting SCORE, both on these webinars as well as in-person sessions. So I am delighted and thankful to turn over the session to Cliff. It's all yours.
Hey, thanks, Peter, and thank you as always for the wonderful introduction. Basically, first of all, welcome to everybody. I'm glad that you're taking out some time on a busy day to spend some time with me. The one thing that Peter did not mention in his introduction, and in the interest of full disclosure, I always do this, is that by profession, I am an attorney. I think he did that. And like any attorney, we always tell you what we're not going to do before we tell you what we're going to do. So this slide is actually very important. We are going to get into a little bit of the legal and tax issues of selling on eBay and Amazon, but none of this should be viewed as legal advice, one-on-one advice. One-on-one advice is, hey, Peter, this is what you should do, and hey, Joe, here's why you should do something different. That's one-on-one advice, which I really can't do in a program of this nature. So if you hear something on this program and it sounds like a good idea, you do it and it doesn't work, and your business fails, you'll go bankrupt, your spouse divorces you, your kids don't want to talk to you anymore, the dog he's peeing on your leg and you're living in a diaper box under the Brooklyn Bridge. You really can't sue anybody. Okay, that's really what the essence of this side is. So let's launch right into this. Selling online, major business in America right now. Over 2 million Americans make a full or part-time living selling on eBay and Amazon, which is to me an incredible figure. About 20 years ago, I was privileged. eBay tapped me to join a team of small business experts. It was called eBay University. We flew around the country every month giving talks to eBay sellers groups about all different aspects of taking your selling and making a real business out of it. I was the legal and tax expert on the program. They called me the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor of eBay University. And those of you who are familiar with the Harry Potter books, you know what that's all about. And you especially know that the Defense Against the Dark Art professor usually doesn't end up very well. So I've just met some incredible people. And really, when you're selling online, it's all about joining a community. And I'm going to be talking about this a lot during the next hour. But first of all, I have a nice little metaphor here that I use. This is what your online business should look like. This is your goal, is to create something that looks like this. Now, what is this? It's an octopus, right? It's an octopus. It is what is it? An octopod. I don't know the scientific name for these things. If those of you who are of Italian American origin out there, squigili, calamari, we eat these things, okay? But this is what your online business should look like. So and I'm not just being funny here. Take a close look at the octopus. If you look very closely at this drawing, the octopus has three parts to it. If you look very closely, the first, which is rather obvious, is this giant bubble balloon of a head with the eyes and all that. This is where the entire octopus's internal organs are located, including its digestive organ. Everything happens in this gigantic head that it has. Okay, the second part, which is also rather obvious, are the 8 arms, which we call tentacles. And there are 8 of them. That's why we call them octopus, 8 feet from the ancient Greek. And these things basically float around the water and the octopus's surroundings looking for prey. Then the third part you'll see are these sucker things that are at the very bottom of each of the tentacles. And by the way, I just found out recently the technical scientific name for them is suckers. Okay, sometimes these things look like they're supposed to. And the idea is that when the tentacles capture a fish or something that's swimming by, the tentacles feed the prey to the head where the prey is consumed. So if you get the idea of how an octopus works, the tentacles are floating around in the water, they capture the prey, the suckers feed the prey to the head where it is chewed up and digested. That's how an octopus works. Your e-commerce empire should look exactly the same as an octopus. There are 3 parts to an e-commerce empire. There is your own website. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. That's the head of the octopus. Okay, that's where everything should be, as much as possible, should be happening on your own website. Then you have the outposts, the tentacles, which are your website, your web pages that you have on eBay, Amazon, Etsy, maybe Instagram, those kind of things. Those are the tentacles that float around in the water looking for prey. And then the sucker things are the marketing things that you do both online and offline to promote your e-commerce enterprise. So your TikTok videos, your YouTube videos, maybe your Instagram, your Facebook page. These are the things that feed the prey to the head. But the important thing to stress here, and I can't stress it enough, every small business, whether you're selling on eBay or brick and mortar or anything, a law practice should have a website of its own. I mean, I know social media is the big thing, and you don't really, they say you don't need a website anymore the way they used to back 20 years ago. But you know what? That is really not 100% true. And I'll give you 2 reasons for that. Number one, when you're in business, and especially if you're in business online, people expect you to have a website of your own. If you and I meet a score function or something, and I hear that your name is Susie's Fantasies, I expect to see a website at susiesfantasies.com. And if I don't see it, I'm kind of blown away by that. I'm a little, that takes away from your credibility. If you're an online, merchant of any kind, you should have that real estate, nailed down pat. Especially those of you who are looking to build a brand. I mean, this is essential. I mean, if you're looking to build a brand, Cliff's Honey, and you're not cliffshoney.com, that's an instant buzzkill for anybody that's looking to buy from your business. So you need it. You need to have that brand, that recognition, that brand identity online. But there's a second reason too, and this one's more economic. There is only one place, and only one on the entire internet, where you can sell stuff and keep 100% of what you make, 100% of the profit, and that is the stuff that you sell from your own website. This is where your best merchandise should be. This is where your highest margin merchandise should be. This is where everything else that you do online, the ultimate goal is to feed those customers to the head of the octopus, which is your website. That's where your best stuff is, and that's where you can keep 100% of what you make. I mean, it's no secret. When you can sell on eBay, Etsy, Amazon, you can sell on Facebook now, Facebook Marketplace. But these places charge a ton of money in fees. When you sell from your own website, there are no fees except for the annual domain registration fee that you pay to the domain name registrar. That's it. Okay, this is where your best stuff should be. And the goal of everything else that you do online, like the octopus, is to feed the customers to the head, which is your killer website. Okay, so I hate to belabor it. Some people, well, yeah, you're an old guy, Cliff, you're a boomer. Yeah, you're still thinking in terms of websites, but it really bugs me, especially attorneys. I refer business out to a lot of specialized attorneys around the country, and it really bums me when somebody gives me an attorney's name and I can see all their reviews on Angie's.com and Avo.com and stuff like that. I can see all this stuff that's out there. I can see their LinkedIn profile, but I don't see anything with the person's name on it that will tell me in his or her own voice what they're all about. That bugs the crap out of me. And it's such a simple thing. You don't have to do a great website. You can do a little, one pager like I have at cliffennico.com. I'm never going to win any design awards from my website at cliffennico.com, but it's a very effective site. And I get a lot of business from it because if people see Cliff Ennico, they see cliffennico.com. And that instantly gives me the credibility that I'm looking for. So the 5 steps in building an online octopus. First, build a killer website. Number 2, establish outposts on other major e-commerce websites. We're going to talk today mostly about eBay, Amazon, Etsy, Shopify is another big one. Market your web presence. Step 3, market your web presence online, search engine optimizations, pay-per-click, social media. Step number 4, market your web presence offline. Offline media is not dead. It's one of the dirty little secrets of the internet is that a lot of people find out about new web-based businesses through offline media. How many of you have looked at a website because you read about it in a newspaper or magazine article? Chances are, even if you're under the age of 50, you probably have done that at least once. Offline marketing is still very important and should not be neglected. Then last but not least, measure your performance. Find out what's working and what's not. The internet is vast and it's very time consuming. Internet marketing takes up a lot of your time. Even if you don't have an online business, I spend a good 20% of my total time in my law practice marketing what I do. This talk for scoring today counts as a marketing thing. You have to be constantly out there trolling. Those tentacles have to be constantly working. And if something is not working out, you've got to have the guts to kill it off. If you're spending time, your precious time on planet Earth, doing something that's not generating revenue, you got to know where the revenue is coming from, and where it's not coming from, you kill it off. So, what are your goals here? Before you start off selling online, what are your goals? If you're looking to make an extra 20 to 30,000 a year, it really isn't difficult at all to do this online, selling on eBay, Amazon. A lot of people do it. The vast majority of those 2 million people who sell on eBay and Amazon probably are not making more than this per year, but that's okay. They're full-time. A lot of farmers, a lot of people in rural America sell on eBay and Amazon, during the winter when the crops are in, they got nothing to do. This is what they do to keep income flowing until the spring planting season. A lot of people, eBay especially, is very big in rural America. When I was doing the eBay University gig, I can't tell you how many propeller planes I flew on to these little towns around the country that had very big eBay communities. It's very interesting, sort of eye-opening for those of us here who lived in the Northeast our entire lives. There's another whole America out there, and it's very interesting, sometimes very different than the way we are. If you're looking to add an online channel to an existing brick and mortar business, it's very possible, moderately difficult. You probably need to have one employee who's full-time devoted to it, but it certainly can be done. To make a living, it's difficult. If you're living in Fairfield County, Connecticut, you need at least $150,000 a year in gross income to live, pre-tax income. Now that's going to be hard to do selling, tchotchkes online, but it can be done if you pick the right merchandise and the right channels. To build an empire is very difficult unless it's your own stuff. If you are a manufacturer, if you are a producer of something and you're looking to sell online as a way of creating a new distribution channel, that's really where you can make the serious bucks. If you're selling other people's stuff, it's really very hard to get past the 20 to 30,000 a year threshold. At least in my experience, that's the case. Okay, we've been talking about retail platforms. These are the majors online: eBay, Amazon, Etsy, Shopify. There are also some less popular ones, which you should not overlook. Bonanza, firstdibs.com is primarily for antiques and collectibles. The Best Buy website is now known as Rakuten, webstore.com. I mean, these places they don't get the traffic that the majors do, but sometimes they're more focused, and sometimes they're, they are better for certain types of you don't have the competition on these sites that you have on the majors. I mean, if you're selling estate jewelry on eBay, there's probably 5 million people around the world selling estate jewelry on eBay. It's very hard for you to stand out. On firstdibs.com, it will be a lot easier to stand out, although you're dealing with a smaller, market base. I'm a big fan of microsites. These are wonderful, especially if you're doing antiques, collectibles, anything that is unique, in nature. These are very small sites, sometimes very small, but they are 100% focused on your customer base. Years ago, I collected antique mechanical banks. Some of you know what these are. Back between about 1870 and 1930, there were a bunch of companies in the US and England primarily who made these things. These were children's toys. They were cast iron reproductions of a scene. You'd put your penny in, and the bank would do something cute to deposit the penny. And there were quite a few of these, highly collectible. There were several hundred of them that were made during that time period. And people who collect these things are just fanatics about antique mechanical banks. Mechanicalbanks.org is a website of the Mechanical Banks Collectors Society of North America. I was secretary of that organization for 1 year, about 20 years ago. At the time, we had about 15,000 members in 25 countries around the world, all of whom were high-end mechanical bank collectors. Now, 15,000 is not a huge market, but if you have an antique mechanical bank to sell, well, you can certainly sell it on eBay. And there are tons of people who sell mechanical banks on eBay. But if you really have a good one and you're looking for the high-end collectors, where do they live? Answer mechanicalbanks.org. And I mean, we were always pretty, open. If somebody wanted to list a bank for sale on our site, you paid us $10 or something, and we'd list it. We'd put a listing up, for our membership. The membership was only $50 a year. So if you were a dealer in antiques and you did a lot of these things, you probably would, the $50 a year is nothing, for that membership. And you're reaching every serious mechanical bank collector in the world. And there are a lot of sites like this. PenBid is for antique pens and writing instruments. If you want the quill pen that Benjamin Franklin used to sign the Constitution, that's probably where it lives. Alibris.com is an organization of used booksellers and rare booksellers. All of the textbooks that you had in your college classes 30 years ago that are now out of print, that's where you find Alibris.com. You will also, hint, hint, find a lot of my books on Alibris.com. Every once in a while, I go on the site and I buy a few used copies in good condition so I can give them out to people. It's a dirty trick for us authors who've been writing books for 30 years, and some of the stuff's no longer in print. Those are some examples of microsites. Don't ignore microsites because they could be the greatest place you can sell your stuff online. Okay, so here are the 5 big questions you have to ask when you're starting out. What will I sell? Where will it come from? Which mega retail platform should I choose? More than one. How do I get started? And what are the rules? This is what we're going to be talking about in the next 45 minutes. Okay, the biggest question that people have, what do I sell online? Okay, sell what sells. Okay, that's the best advice anyone will ever give you for stuff that you're selling online. You're looking for merchandise with which there's lots of customers, little competition, and relatively high gross margins. Gross margin is the purchase price less the cost of goods sold. Okay, very simple. The math is very simple here. Where are the underserved niches? What are the niches on these various sites that are being underperforming? Believe it or not, if those of you who are looking to buy a CD, okay, let's say a music CD, and I know I'm speaking to the older crowd here. Everything now is streaming. I totally get that. But let's say that you're an older person, especially if you're a classical or jazz lover. Those of us who are classical jazz lovers, we're still into physical media. We like to hold the thing in our hand. We're not doing streaming as much as the pop and rock people are doing. Certainly most of us would go to Amazon, but here's a dirty little secret. There's lots of music CDs, mildly used on eBay, and often the prices are absurdly low. And it's because people don't know to look there for this kind of stuff. They think, well, CDs, it's media, that's Amazon. You're right to a certain extent, but that doesn't mean that there isn't good stuff being sold on eBay. Where are the underserved niches? Where are the places where there's room for growth and development? That's what you're looking for. Sell what you know, not necessarily what you love. One of my favorite eBay sellers is a person in Detroit Michigan. He is a big seller on eBay Motors. He sells auto parts. And what he sells mostly are parts for old 1990s Toyotas and Hondas is what he sells. That is what his focus is. He's got sources for this. Don't ask me where they're from. I mean, I up until very recently, I drove two 1990s Toyotas until about 6 months ago. And whenever I needed a new part for one of these things, I'd go to my mechanic. He'd look up the part number, tell me what it was. I then went online, and mostly it was this guy that I bought it from. He would ship it to me, and then I would give it to my mechanic, and he would just charge me for the labor. And I saved a lot of money keeping those cars up to date by doing that. And there are a lot of people who do that online. And my friend out in Detroit says you cannot be in love with a transmission belt. There's no such thing as being emotionally attached to a transmission belt or a water pump. But people need these things. And, they want to know that they've got the exact right one for their make and model of older car. And that's where he actually probably does about $1 million a year on eBay doing these, older, Japanese car auto parts. You don't have to love what you sell, but you have to know your stuff. You have to know your merchandise. When I buy from somebody online, especially on eBay, I want to know that this person understands that merchandise. And they can stand behind it. There's a lot of fakes, forgeries, and frauds out there. If you're selling, genuine, estate jewelry from 150 years ago, you better damn well be a jeweler who understands the difference between, H and N diamonds. You need to know that stuff. If you sell only flea market stuff, you will get only flea market prices. My good friend Janelle Elms, who's a leading eBay expert, says this in her presentations all the time. And it really is true. When you're first starting out, it's okay to do like $5, $10 things, because that way, if you make a mistake, if you screw up, it doesn't cost you all that much. But your goal should be to get beyond the flea market stage, especially if you're selling on eBay. Okay, is the platform right for the type of merchandise? eBay is big for antiques, collectibles, used secondhand merch. Anything that is unique, that cannot be barcoded, is something that usually sells very well on eBay. Amazon, books, media, housewares, just about everything that can be barcoded. Amazon is the place for new merchandise, not antiques or secondhand stuff. Yes, there is some stuff on there, but usually for that kind of stuff, the auction mechanism works a lot better than the buy it now mechanism. And Amazon did for almost 30 years, one of the few things that Amazon has never done is to build a credible auction platform. eBay owns the universe when it comes to auctions. Still, they don't like when I say that, but it's still very true. Etsy is for handicrafts, arts and crafts items, personalized, handmade goods. Shopify, I call it baby Amazon. Apparel, health and beauty products, home decor, pet supplies. And Shopify tends to skew a little bit more female friendly than Amazon in a way. If you're looking for like handbags and accessories, women's clothing and stuff like that, you might find that there's a better selection on Shopify than there is on Amazon. Shopify is gradually catching up to Amazon. Consider, like I said, the best way if you're a buyer and you're looking to get bargains, consider a contrarian approach. Look for CDs on eBay. Look for Amazon stuff on eBay, look for eBay stuff on Amazon. You might get lucky and find a seller who's relatively overlooked, and you might get a great deal on it. Find out what sells best on each platform. All the platforms have a feature where you can see how many sellers there are, how many what the top 10 SKUs are in terms of popularity. Take advantage of those features and find out what's selling. I mean, if you're selling estate jewelry on Amazon, on eBay, I mean, you're going to be competing with 2 million people. How are you going to stand out from that competition? That's your biggest challenge when you're doing stuff like that. Now, there is some stuff you cannot legally sell online. I'm giving you a link here. This is a page within the eBay website. It's a wonderful resource, by the way. It's an A to Z index, and they basically lists all the things that you cannot sell on eBay. Which are, even if you're selling on Amazon, I would bookmark this page anyway, because it's just a wonderful list of all the laws that are out there relating to illegal stuff that you cannot legally sell. Some of these rules get pretty complicated. Those of you who are dealing in Native American artifacts, for example, you are sometimes required to show proof that these are not grave goods, that they haven't been dug out of somebody's grave in the desert, somewhere. If you're selling rare coins, there are a lot of forgeries and frauds, some of which are 200, 300 years old. There are people actually out there who collect frauds, copies, what we used to call genuine replica coins from 300 ancient coins from 300 years ago. There are people who collect it. It's actually a collecting specialty within the rare coin field. But it's also wonderful. So, for example, you can sell a lot of taxidermy, stuffed animals. On not teddy bears, but like actual taxidermy type stuff on eBay and Amazon. But you cannot sell stuffed bears. And the reason why, and you would never know this unless you were in this community, is that the bear is the grizzly bear especially is the state bear of California, and it's considered sacrilege to sell a taxidermy grizzly bear, on eBay because eBay is based in California. I mean, these are the kind of things you don't know this. It's just a wonderful listing. It's alphabetical, and it's a great way to sort of research. If anybody's handing you questionable, if example, you're dealing through your grandpa's World War II stuff, you find some Nazi memorabilia. There are some rules about how and you sell that stuff and how you deal with that kind of merchandise. So become familiar with the rules, which is important. Okay, question number 2: where is the merchandise going to come from? Well, every eBay business, I think, has 3 steps. There are 3 levels to an eBay business. The first is the stuff from mom's attic. Mom, or dad passes away. You got this whole house full of stuff. You got to clean out the house so that the real estate agents can come in and stage it and you can sell the house. And you don't know what to do with it. I mean, I cleaned out my mom's apartment. Mom was a hoarder. It took me 6 months to clean out a 1-bedroom apartment in Yonkers, New York. She had everything in this world, boxes upon boxes upon boxes. And you had to look at every single damn thing. It was one of the most painful summers of my life. Was cleaning out that damn apartment. You never know, by the way, how truly weird your parents were until you clean out their stuff after they're gone, and you see all this stuff. But I mean, generally speaking, when you clean out somebody's house, there's 3 piles of stuff. There's pile number 1, which is absolute garbage. You throw it out, you don't think about it. There's pile number 2, which are the keepsakes, the photo albums, that kind of stuff. Things that trigger positive memories, of your childhood. That stuff you keep. But then there's this big third pile in the middle of stuff that is too good to throw away, but not good enough to keep. And eBay is the natural home for this type of stuff. 90% of the sellers on eBay at any given time are looking to clean out a house. And it's really an amazing religious experience when you do this and you find out stuff that you think has no value at all. There's actually somebody out there willing to pay $20 plus shipping for this damn thing. It's amazing when you realize that's when you get kind of the bug. You say, oh my, I can make money doing this. Once you clean out mom's attic, I'm going to look for other stuff to sell. Then you go to the second phase of the eBay business, which is I call the dumpster diving phase of eBay sales. This is when you start driving around your neighborhood on trash day, looking to see what people put in their blue bins. You start frequenting estate sales, garage sales, thrift shops. Keep in mind, by the way, that in some parts of the country, dumpster diving may be illegal. If those of you who are thinking about sourcing your stuff from thrift shops, there's a wonderful Facebook group called Thrifting with the Boards. I know these guys. These are 2 guys out of Las Vegas. They look like bikers, but they're really sweet people, and they've been doing this for a long time. And they've actually got a whole system for how they shop at thrift shops and looking for the stuff that sells on eBay and Amazon. And it's just an incredible resource, for that kind of stuff. And then the third step is what I call the pickup truck stage. This is where you get a pickup truck. You get a couple of day laborers from the local Dunkin' Donuts. You drive around on weekends to estate sales with a wad of $100 bills, and you go up to people and say, "Hey, look, you want to take an early day today? I'll give you $500 for everything that's here." And a lot of people will do that. They don't really want to be bothered, selling all this crap out of their homes. They'll say, yeah, $500, great. You peel off the $500, all cash transactions. You blow the whistle. The 2-day laborers come over and load up your truck, and you go on to the next. There are people actually who do this. I am not making that up. There are people who actually do this. My mom used to do, antique sales and stuff like that back in the day. It's hard to find these now, but people don't do brick and do physical, antique sales anymore. But my mom used to do them, and sooner every time we did, when a guy would come up, there's always a guy with a cowboy hat. And he came up and he said, "Man, you got some this little stuff here. I'll give you $300 for the whole business if you go big. If you want to go home early today." And Mom always said no, because for her it was a day out. But there are people out there that do this, and it's amazing. If you ever go to your local library's annual used book sale, get there early in the morning because the Amazon sellers are there at 6 o'clock in the morning with their boxes full of stuff. And I hate these people because these people, they don't even look at what they buy. They just go to the most, popular sections and they just grab stuff and just throw them into the boxes. And they go buy like 500 books in 10 minutes. And there's nothing left over for the normal people. I hate those people, but they're out there and they make it and they make a living doing this. Okay. In fact, one way that you might want to consider, sourcing stuff is retail arbitrage. Believe it or not, one of the things we've learned on the internet is that you can actually go to a store, buy something at full retail price complete with sales tax, and actually sell it for more money on eBay or Amazon because not all merchandise is available in all parts of the country. And this has actually got a name. It's called retail arbitrage. It's buying at retail and selling for even more money online. And there are people that do this. They will actually go to stores that have specialized merchandise. They'll buy a whole bunch of stuff and then they'll sell it. They'll sell it on their Amazon accounts, and they actually get a premium over retail price because there are a lot of parts of the country where people cannot get that merchandise. Especially, we're a very transient society now. People move all over the country. If you live in the Northeast and you move out to Utah, there's a lot of stuff that you're going to miss because this from your own from Connecticut or New York, because that stuff's not available in Utah. That's where online sales become, and retail arbitragers can make their money. But it's really no way to build a brand. If you're doing this, you're going to be taking stuff as catch can. It's very hard to build a brand on eBay or Amazon if all you're doing is retail arbitraging. Also, you got to be very careful. Retail arbitrage can sometimes get you into trouble, especially when you're selling trademarked merchandise like Louis Vuitton or the Birkin bags or something like that. You better make sure that stuff is genuine, because if it isn't, or if there's any doubt about it, both Amazon and eBay and the manufacturer will start sending nasty legal letters shutting you down. Hardly a week goes by in my practice that I don't get a call from one of my eBay and Amazon clients in. They got a threatening letter from Tiffany's because they put something up on eBay and Tiffany's is saying that it's a fraud, even though it isn't. And you got to fight that battle. It's a pain in the ass. Drop shipping and consignment sales. Now, this is one way you can make serious money on eBay and Amazon. Drop shipping means that basically you contact a local manufacturer. Usually it's a small local company. And basically what you say is, hey, you probably want to make money on Amazon specifically or Shopify. I'm an online seller. I will basically take care of your online marketplace. I'll set up your pages. I'll manage your web presence on eBay and Amazon. Basically what I'll do is I'll sell your merchandise, and when an order comes in, I'll send it to you and you ship it and you fulfill it. That's called drop shipping. Okay, consignment is a little bit different. The main difference between drop shipping and consignment is that in consignment, you actually take possession of the merchandise. In drop shipping, you don't. The manufacturer has the warehouse and the shipping and the fulfillment. You're just selling for them online, and you take a commission when a sale comes through. Somebody buys one of these things, these jars of honey or whatever, you take your 30% commission or 40% commission. Off the top, you remit the rest to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer ships the merchandise and takes care of all the returns and recalls and stuff like that, so you don't have to. Drop shipping can be a very good way to make a decent living online. One of the things I do for my clients, for the clients that do this, is I will help them do their agreements with the local manufacturers. We call them distribution agreements, where they're becoming the exclusive online distributor. Make sure, if you're doing this, make sure you get an exclusive agreement with the manufacturer saying that they will not do business with anybody else selling stuff on eBay and Amazon. It's all got to go through you. Private labeling, white labeling. This is where you're buying stuff in bulk from China that doesn't have a label on it. You're putting your label on it and you're selling it on eBay manufacturing. Those of you who have ever bought CVS brand aspirin at the CVS, that is an example of white labeling. That is, wink, wink, probably Bayer aspirin, but it's just being sold under a different name. Keep in mind that if you're doing this, it's perfectly legal, but you are now a manufacturer. So if these things are falling apart and killing people, kids are choking on the parts or whatnot, that's your problem now. If you're going to be doing private labeling or white labeling, you need to have products liability insurance. That is very, very important to have. I will not represent a client doing this unless they have a products liability policy in place. Should you be buying in bulk from overseas? Well, certainly a lot of people have done it. But the thing you have to watch out for now are, of course, Mr. Trump's tariffs. There used to be an exception to the U.S. Tariffs for goods having a value of under $800. Mr. Trump has eliminated that now, especially stuff coming in from China now. You're going to have to deal with the tariffs. You're going to have to know and they change like from one week to another, depending on different. It's a very confusing environment right now. It's not as profitable to buy stuff from China and sell it online as it was, 2 or 3 years ago. Okay, let's talk about tariffs. Basically, it used to be the goods costing less than $800 were exempt. The Trump administration have targeted Asian imports. Best to source goods within the U.S. until the landscape becomes a bit clearer, and even then, price accordingly. The bottom line is you will have to pass the tariffs on to your customers. There's no way to avoid that. Okay, which platform should I choose? eBay. Pros, it's easy to get started. You get strong search engine marketing support, especially if you set up an eBay store. That's a page within the eBay site where you promote your merchandise. They're more seller friendly. They do not compete with you. When you buy something on eBay, you're not buying from eBay. You're buying from some schlep like me who lives on the other side of the country. eBay does not get involved in its sales transactions. They're just a platform on which things take place. Better international exposure, less exposure to sales taxes, best for auction sales and non-barcoded items. Cons, not really ideal for new merch, even though they really have worked very hard at eBay to chase Amazon's tail. Flea market, there's still the perception that eBay is the nation's flea market, and they haven't really got much beyond that, despite they will not accept PayPal payments. Although they do accept most of the other fintech products like Venmo and stuff like that. PayPal used to be part of eBay. They spun off about 15 years ago. And because as part of that deal, eBay will not take PayPal payments. I guess it was part of the antitrust settlement when they split off PayPal. Amazon, the advantages of Amazon, better for new unused merchandise, much bigger marketplace, more automated. They offer an FBA app that's called Fulfillment by Amazon, where they handle all the shipping and fulfillment. Well, you just ship your stuff to Amazon. They take care of the sales, the returns, and stuff like that. You get a check every month. It's for people who are just occasional sellers or cleaning out mom's attic. It's a wonderful program. But there are disadvantages. They are more controlling. They have very strict rules, and if you violate even one of them, they suspend or terminate you. There are higher fees. They don't do auction format. Everything is buy it now. It's very hard to develop brand identity, especially if you're using the FBA program, because with the FBA, one of the downsides of FBA is that they don't tell you who the customers are. You don't know who's buying from you. So there's no way that you can sell them have repeat sales. That's why if you're doing Amazon, you want to do their other program, which is FBM, a fulfillment by merchant, where they just promote the stuff on there and the orders go through you. And you're the one who has to handle inventory and fulfillment and warehousing and all that stuff. The biggest con, Amazon competes with you. If you have a popular product on Amazon, sooner or later, Amazon will find a place and they will be offering it themselves. And if you've ever looked at the buy box where it offers you the different prices that different sellers charge, Amazon is almost always the lowest price, on their own merchandise that they sell. And that people get very disgruntled about that. They spend years of their life building this. Amazon finds out about it. Next thing you know, they're selling their own brand of merchandise in competition with you. That's unfortunate, but it's how they operate. Etsy, Shopify, they're smaller, but they have a stronger following. Etsy is extremely female friendly. If you're doing any kind of handicraft or personalized item, Etsy is where you want to be. They have greater control over your brand's presence, lower fees, better customer relationship management. They don't compete with you. Disadvantage, it's got kind of a mom and pop perception. And also too, when it comes to handicraft items, how do you scale a business like that? If you've got a popular line of merchandise, you're the one who's got to stay up all night making the sweaters and stuff like that. There's a certain natural limit to how big a handicrafts business can grow. It basically, but unless you're planning to outsource and have a sweatshop in the Philippines with people working 24/7 making this stuff, and if you do that to a certain extent, they're going to kick you off Etsy because that's not the image that they want. It's not a place where you can really grow. Etsy is an arts and crafts handicraft. It's a crafts fair. It's if eBay is the nation's garage sale, Etsy is the nation's crafts fair. That is basically what it is. When in doubt, sell on multiple channels, but keep track of your inventory so you can sell which ones are performing. If you know you and there are some tools, you just some tools that help online sellers keep track of where their stuff is selling and all that across multiple platforms. But just keep in mind that if something isn't working out for you, let it go. Murphy's Law for online sellers. Okay, whenever, and this is by the way true of all entrepreneurs. When you are a serial entrepreneur, you're doing a bunch of different things. Here's Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law is anything that can go wrong will go wrong, right? Here's how that translates into the online sellers universe. The merchandise that you are most excited about is the stuff that nobody wants to buy. You know, the stuff that they want to buy is the stuff that you hate, the stuff that you hate selling. It's a pain in the neck. You got to spend a lot of time packaging it, doing whatever, but that's the stuff that people want. That's Murphy's Law as it applies to online sellers. Okay, how do I get started? Okay, some of these slides, by the way, Score will, make these slides available to you in a PDF format. So don't feel that you got to write frantically or take screenshots, although you're more than welcome to do so. How do you get started? Every one of these sites has a tutorial online, a video tutorial, and they're very good usually. These are the tutorials for all of the best way. But here's the best way is to make a friend. Find somebody who's in this community and let them teach you. eBay and Amazon sellers are a very gregarious bunch. They like getting together with each other. They like feeling that they're part of a community, especially eBay people. Become a part of that and find someone who will actually teach you the ropes. As long as you're not directly competing with them, they probably will take the time and help you. Lastly, what are the rules? Okay, each platform, if you are committed to selling online, especially if you're on one of the major platforms, you must become familiar to some extent with the terms and conditions. Every major online platform has a document. It's usually called a terms of use document, a user's agreement. Sometimes it's called a seller's handbook. They are usually in plain English, and they are updated frequently. I've given you the links here to the major pages for eBay, Amazon, Etsy, and Shopify. You also need to know what can you do? How do you screw up on these sites? How can you be suspended or booted off the platform? They're basically, if they catch you violating any of their rules, they have the right to suspend your account. Suspension means you can't sell on the site, but they'll give you a chance to at least make your case and justify your existence. Termination means that they're booting you off the site, and there's really very little recourse to being terminated. I mean, one of my best friends, lawyer friends, his name is right here, C.J. Rosenbaum. He's an attorney in Long Island. He has a practice with 5 attorneys, and all they do is fight termination battles for Amazon sellers. That's what they do. They represent Amazon sellers who've been terminated by Amazon and are looking to reinstate their sites. He's actually been able to build a law practice on just that. That's how frequently this happens. The 3 most common ways that you can be suspended or booted off the platform is selling counterfeit merchandise. Again, nobody looks and determines if it is truly counterfeit, but if you sell something, from your Aunt Mary's boudoir, genuine Tiffany ring, just having the ring in a Tiffany box will not be enough. You have to show some kind of provenance to show that this actually was a Tiffany item. Years ago, there was a person on eBay who was selling empty Tiffany boxes, just the boxes. He would go to, yard sales, whatever, and there would always be some Tiffany boxes and stuff. He would acquire these things. Now you have to ask yourself, who would buy an empty Tiffany box without something in it? Answer, a very cheap boyfriend. Okay, that is the person. Somebody who's looking to propose to his, girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever, and they basically have bought a cheap old ring, but they want to make it seem like it was from Tiffany. Okay, now that is not only fraud, obviously, but if you are participating in that kind of activity and facilitating that kind of activity, I just got 3 words for you: accessory to murder. Because when the spouse finds out that that's not an authentic item, there will be blood. Okay, so just don't get involved in stuff like that. It was a cute idea, and apparently the Trello did very well for a while, selling these empty Tiffany. But eventually, eBay caught on to what they were doing, and they barred them from the site forever. Selling trademark merchandise without authorization. This is where the retail arbitrage people always get into trouble. They sell. Try to stay away if you're going to do retail arbitrage. Stay away from luxury merchandise. Sell the stuff that you can buy at Sears. That because nobody really cares about that stuff. And if you're selling, drills for $50 a piece, I mean, no one's going to care about that so much. But if you're selling Louis for genuine, Birkin handbag, these manufacturers care very much about their image. They do not want to see their stuff on eBay and Amazon. Period. They don't want to do it. They don't even have sites of their accounts of their own because what you're buying is the exclusivity of that item, of that merchandise. So stay away from luxury goods because they're the ones that Tiffany has a whole team of attorneys that do nothing but send out nasty letters to eBay and Amazon sellers. They troll eBay and Amazon. The minute they see the word Tiffany, you get a nasty letter. It's just how it is. And you cannot appeal. There is no way. I mean, eBay does have an appeals process, but you never win in that thing. So just stay away from stuff like that. There are plenty of ways to sell legitimate merchandise on eBay without having those kind of hassles, and you should avoid them. What to do if you're suspended? There are two excellent resources. C.J. Rosenbaum, he's the attorney. Cynthia Stein is not an attorney. She's based in San Antonio, Texas, I believe. She's in Texas somewhere. But she also helps. She's not an attorney, but she helps Amazon sellers, especially who have been suspended or terminated from the site. I think she also does eBay suspensions and terminations as well. Okay, what are the rules? Okay, legal and tax issues from selling online. Is this a business or a hobby? Frankly, if you're selling online, there's absolutely no reason why you can't claim it as a business. But if you're going to claim it as a business, there are certain formalities. I mean, let's face it. If you're selling something as a hobby, and here's the law in plain English. Okay, here's the tax law. If you are selling something online and you are making a profit doing it, the IRS does not care whether you are a business or a hobby. You have to report that income as income and you have to pay tax on it. Period. End of story. Will without end. Where there's a difference between business and hobby is when you're losing money. If you are selling stuff online and you're losing money and you're treating it as a hobby, well, you can deduct it, but you can only deduct it against gains from the same or another hobby. Hobby losses can only be deducted against hobby gains. So if you're just losing money and you don't have another hobby that you're making money on, that hobby loss is totally useless to you. Whereas if it's a business loss, if you treat your selling as a business and you lose money, that loss can be very valuable. You can use that loss to offset income from other sources. You can use that to offset income from your day job. You can do that. And in fact, if the loss is too big and it's not enough to eat up all that income, you can carry it forward into future years. It's a wonderful deduction to have. I mean, a lot of people who sell rare coin collections at a loss. I mean, you're crazy if you don't take that deduction. But you have to do it. I mean, you should do it as a business. Now, if you're going to treat your selling as a business, there are things you have to do. First of all, in Connecticut, you have to register for sales tax. And this is where you do it. You have to open up what's called a My Connect with a CT account with the Department of Revenue Services in Hartford. Now, a lot of you are saying, well, wait a minute, Cliff, I know Amazon takes care of all the sales taxes. I don't have to do that. Yes, they handle all your sales taxes for stuff that you sell on Amazon. But if you're also selling stuff from your website, which you should, that's the head of the octopus that we're talking about. Amazon will not take care of sales tax from that. You have to report and pay sales tax on the stuff that you sell from your website. So my suggestion is if you open a business in Connecticut and you say retail, sooner or later the Department of Revenue Services is going to send you a letter saying, hey, why haven't you signed up for sales tax? So the best way to avoid this is just to sign up for sales tax. Every month you're going to go online, you're going to fill out a form which will mostly be a bunch of zeros every month, but at least you are complying with the law. Do that. And those of you who are in other states too, you should register for sales tax. You are always subject to sales tax in the state where your business is physically located. So if you're in New York, you should be registering for sales tax in New York. If you're in Connecticut, you should be registering for sales tax in Connecticut. What about sales taxes in other states? Okay. Well, in 2018, there was a very big Supreme Court case. It was called the Wayfair case. And the Wayfair case really turned this on its head. It used to be for hundreds of years that a state could not impose its sales tax on out-of-state vendors. Okay, you could only impose sales tax on in-state sales, not interstate sales. The 2013 Wayfair decision changed all of that overnight. And it basically says that states can impose their sales tax on out-of-state vendors, but only if the out-of-state vendors are targeting people in that state through their marketing efforts, and the sales are more than just nominal. We're not talking about just a few sales a year. So if you're selling stuff on eBay and somebody in Iowa buys it, you don't really have to worry about charging Iowa sales tax for it. But if you are selling over $100,000 in gross merchandise sales to people in Iowa each year, you may have to register for sales tax in Iowa and pay Iowa sales tax on those sales to Iowa residents. Every state now has a law. The threshold is usually 100,000 in gross merchandise sales, but in some states it's actually quite less. Rhode Island, for example, it's only $5,000. If you're selling more than $5,000 a year online to people in Rhode Island, you should be charging Rhode Island sales tax to those people. A lot of people don't know that. If you're selling internationally, be aware. If you, for example, if you open an account with ebay.co.uk, which is the British eBay site, or the French site, be very careful. Europe has a lot different laws than we do. And you will be subject to those laws. If you have a French website selling to people in France, you are a French company, and you are treated the same way for legal and tax purposes as any business with headquarters in Paris. Okay. All right. So let's talk about getting help. We have a few minutes left. I mean, I can't cover the entire waterfront here. It's just too big. But my goal here is to give you at least enough information that you can at least see if this is something that's right for you. Also, too, I want to give you some resources. And here's what you got to do. Buy a couple of books, watch some YouTube videos, TikTok videos too, but YouTube videos are better because they're longer. Join a meetup group or three, and attend a trade show for online sellers. There are trade shows for online sellers around the country. Okay, let's talk about books for eBay sellers. I'm proud to say I'm actually one of the authors of the eBay Sellers Tax and Legal Answer book. This is sort of the legal and tax Bible for eBay sellers, which I'm very, very, happy about. I'm one of these authors. For eBay sellers, I mean, eBay has a very active sellers site where sellers can talk to each other. They have discussion threads, community groups, and stuff like that. You definitely want to participate in those. As I say, these people are very giving. They are very community oriented. The people who sell on eBay and Amazon, and they will talk to you. There is a Connecticut eBay and eBay sellers group. They meet in Hartford. Unfortunately, they don't meet in Fairfield County. You may have to schlep up to Hartford, but they're a very active group. Last I looked, Dina Quilty, it may be somebody now called Michelle Galvero. I don't know. They change every couple of years. This is a nonprofit organization that basically acts as a network for people who are selling on eBay and Amazon. That's what it's for. In New York City, there's a lovely lady called Kathy Carroll. She's a retired actress who she was a big Broadway actress. She also starred in some soap operas back in the 80s and 90s. Now she devotes herself entirely to coaching people on how to sell stuff on eBay and Amazon. She's a lovely person to deal with. Marcia Collier is the author of all the eBay for Dummies books. She's written a dozen books in the Dummy series, the yellow cover, the little triangle-headed guy there. She's the author. Marcia's a wonderful person, also very giving. You can contact her on her website. I mean, these are the people who can help you basically get started. For Amazon sellers, this is where you can find out. If you look at this website, there are Amazon sellers groups around the country. They are not as well organized as the eBay people, but they are definitely out there. And these are some people who can help you get started. They charge a little bit of money, but they're very affordable. These are people like you. They're working out of their home. They're not going to charge you $10,000 for setting up an Amazon account. And it may be the best way for you to get started because they know where all the bodies are buried and how to avoid mistakes. If you need help with taxes, for example, Shopify, by the way, I should have mentioned this. Shopify does not take care of sales tax for you. eBay, Amazon, and Etsy do take care of the sales tax stuff when you sell online, but Shopify, at least the last time I looked, does not. So when you're selling stuff on Shopify, you really have to keep track of how much you're selling in the different states. And if you see yourself getting close to 100,000 in gross sales in a particular state, you probably should talk to an accountant or a CPA and find out if there's anything you should be doing to register out there, wherever it is. Taxjar.com is an excellent website. They basically help e-commerce vendors with all of their tax issues. Cabbage, if you're doing a lot of inventory, if you're selling a lot of your stuff, for example, and you are carrying inventory, you can actually get financing on that, just like the big boys do. Cabbage.com, they're based in Atlanta, Georgia. They will help you with financing solutions if you have hard collateral. And again, CJ Rosenbaum, when he happens to be a friend of mine, but he's the only attorney I know in the US that has really focused his practice on Amazon sellers. Just subscribing to his weekly newsletter is probably a good idea because he talks about the scam of the week and stuff like that, and what Amazon is doing, creatively to put sellers offline. If you're selling on Amazon, especially, CJ is just an amazing resource. For Etsy and Shopify sells their meetup. Etsy and Shopify do not have as many meetup groups, but there are some, and there are a couple of books on Shopify. I'm not a big Shopify person, but these are the books that I found just looking online. Etsy also has teams, but unfortunately, there are none currently in New York or New England that I am aware of. Everything is in the Midwest and South. Again, rural America, the heartland. That's where these sites are extremely popular. Trade shows, most have been on hiatus since the pandemic, but they are coming back. eBay is going to be doing an on-the-road program in Las Vegas later this year, which is something you make. Hey, a deductible business trip to Las Vegas, I'm there. Okay. If nothing else, you just learn something right off the bat. You can actually deduct attending these trades. If you have a business for your eBay and Amazon selling, you can deduct the cost of attending an online sellers conference. That's truly deductible. All your travel expenses and 50% of your meals and entertainment is deductible. Take advantage of that. When you own your own business, people, life is deductible, and you should learn. Don't be wrong. Don't be a pig about it, because the IRS will come after you if you are too aggressive in taking deductions. But you should take advantage of the deductions that are available to you. So AI. I mean, everybody's talking about AI these days. And all the major platforms are creating AI solutions, mostly regarding listing and how to describe things using AI to come up with more accurate listings and things like that. And these are the pages where you can learn about the AI solutions. Basically, these are basically my takeaway points here. Again, in 1 hour, I can't cover the universe. You can sell on mega retail sites, but you give away a large percentage of your profit. Your goal is to direct traffic to your website, the head of the octopus, where you keep 100%. Amazon competes with you. Most other sites do not. Sell what sells, not necessarily what you're in love with, but sell stuff you know something about, because that will help you build repeat sales and brand identification on these sites. If people trust that you know what you're talking about, you'll get repeat sales. If you are building a business on Amazon, go with their FBM program, not their FBA program. FBA is really for occasional sellers, people that are looking to sell out mom's attic. FBM is really for the more serious merchants, because then you control the customers. You know who they are, and you can pitch them additional merchandise, which you can't do with FBA. With FBA, they don't tell you who the customers are. They just send you a check every month, and they hope you'll be happy with it. Retail arbitrage, buying stuff at retail and then trying to get more money online, will not build your brand. Specialize in niche merchandise with high margins and minimal competition. Know the rules of each mega site and avoid suspension at all costs. Register for sales tax in your home state. I realize we have people outside Connecticut on this call. So if you're in Iowa, do not register in Connecticut. There's no reason to, but make sure that you register for sales tax in your home state. Go find out your state's. Here's a great trick. Search for your state Department of Revenue, the name of your state and the words Department of Revenue. In virtually every state, the state tax authority is called the Department of Revenue or the Revenue Department. And even if it isn't, by searching for that, you'll get a link to their website and then see how you register for sales tax. It's usually very straightforward. It's very easy in most states. It'll take you about 15, 20 minutes, but it is the law and you have to comply with it. And then last but not least, network with other platform sellers and try to attend at least one trade show a year. Here are the two books, my 17 books that I've written in the last few years. These are the two that are most relevant. The eBay Seller's Tax and Legal Answer Book, like I said, it's become the Bible for people that sell on eBay. It needs a little bit of updating, but it's still pretty good. eBay does actually tout this to a lot of their new sellers as ways that they can maintain legally compliant. And this is where you can get a hold of me most of the time. If those of you who have questions, I always try to find a few minutes every day to answer questions from my score presentations. I may not get back to you immediately. I may be a few days later, but I always try to find a few minutes every day to answer people's questions. And if I can't answer it, I'll try to point you to someone who can. So I think we have a minute or two left. Let's take a look at the chat room. I see we have a couple of questions here. Any suggestions on where to obtain products liability insurance? Well, you need to talk to your insurance broker or insurance agent, specifically people that deal with liability insurance. So people, for example, who do like malpractice, you don't want to go to your home and auto insurer for this. You want to go to someone who does liability. So the people who do malpractice insurance for doctors, lawyers, usually also do products liability coverage. And with a couple of, and even if they can't, they usually know who do. So talk to your insurance broker, find out who does products liability insurance. This is very important when you're white labeling merchandise. You're taking somebody else's stuff and you're putting your name on it and putting it out in the stream of commerce. You are held to the same degree of liability as the manufacturer. And if this product is killing people, good luck trying to sue the manufacturer in China and get them to call them to account. You will not be able to win a lawsuit in China against a Chinese company. Don't even think about it. Cabbage is part of American Express. Thank you very much, by the way. I'm actually glad you mentioned that. Yeah, but basically, Cabbage is a place to go for accounts receivable and inventory financing. If you have an online business with extremely strong cash flows, you might be able to get accounts receivable financing. And Cabbage has always been the place to go for online sellers. And that's the thing. If you're just starting out and you don't have significant cash flows, this type of financing will not be available to you anywhere that I'm aware of. So don't even think about doing that. Yeah, stay away from MCA. This is obviously somebody who knows what they're talking about here. Stay away from merchant cash advances. Yeah, and let's talk about some Amazon
Hey,
scams, by
Cliff,
the way. Do
Cliff,
we have
Cliff.
time to talk about this
No,
now?
no, we are already over time. Cliff, your information is invaluable. Thank you very, very much. Folks, you can get a hold of Cliff via email, via telephone. He actually picks up his phone. Feel free to reach out to Cliff. He is a absolute incredible source of information to all of you. We want to thank Cliff on behalf of SCORE for this webinar. It is being recorded and will be available to you on the Western Connecticut .score.org website within the next day. Please fill out the evaluations. We read them all, and they are very valuable in terms of helping us with the programming going forward. Cliff, an incredible hour. Thank you. And thank you all very much for participating in a SCORE webinar. There are many more coming up. Take a look at our website for the next time. With
Great.
that, we'll close it out. Thanks.
Great. Goodbye and good luck.